What's up, aliens? Welcome to my channel. Ableton 12 is just around the corner, you know that? In this video, I'm gonna present you every new feature, from appearance, new device, and the new MIDI editing. I have also included my vision about Ableton's update. It will be in the end of this video. I'm curious to know what you think about it. This video will be longer, so I will split into chapters for better navigation. So, no more introduction, let's get into it. To start, let's talk about the changes in the appearance and visualization of the interface. When opening the settings, you can change the colors of the interface, brightness and contrast. You can also change the contrast of the grid, which can make it easier to see. We see some significant improvements in the way tabs are displayed in the program. Now we can see the mixer next to arrangement view, which makes it much more easy to mix projects, especially if you don't work with two screens. It is also possible to increase and decrease the visualization of the sound waves in all audio clips. If you are working on a project that is recorded at low volume level, this can be easily adjusted without affecting the audio itself. The display of the volume meters has been upgraded in its visualization. Now the colors form a gradient from green to red. Now, with the possibility of seeing the clip view and device view at the same time, it's much more easy to work with the tuner. You can simply adjust the pitch in the clip view while checking in the tuner for the correct value, or also making modulations while seeing the devices. If you are excited about the latest Ableton Live 12 update, then you must know about Meld. This fantastic, characterful instrument is capable of a wide range of tones, and it's a huge highlight of Ableton's last release. Each sound engine has these two knobs which can change according to the style selected. Check it out, some of them. You can use more than one oscillator at the same time to generate richer tones. A great thing about this synth is the LFO effect. We can make more complex shapes to modulate any parameter on the synth. In this case, I'm gonna modulate the overall pitch of the oscillators. On the effects 1, I'm using the attenuverter, and on the effects 2, I'm using the sample and hold, which makes these nice steps in the modulation. Experimenting with different waveforms, I can get really rich tones. Talking about audio effects, Ableton has released a new distortion plugin, which is called Roar. Let's listen to this drum loop. I just drive an amount to actually hear the distortion. To change the character, you can adjust bias or change the wave shape on the distortion. Now I will change the routing to 0 to have a second stage on the distortion. You can control the harshness or overtones caused by distortion with the low-pass filter. In the modulation tab, you have an envelope follower which can be used to modulate any parameter according to the input waveform. A great feature of this plugin is the feedback mode, which generates repetitions of the sound based on time. In this case, I'm using to generate a richer tone, which sounds like a bass line on this drum loop. Listen to the effect in bypass. I will control the volume with the dry wet knob. Ableton now has a powerful function to categorize your samples and presets within your browser. This machine learning can be very useful to discover sounds that are hidden in your folders. This function can be a lot more powerful when working with the drum rack. Because you can easily swap samples in each slot. You can even randomize all the samples in every slot, clicking in the arrows at the top of the drum rack. If you're looking for samples like this, you probably noticed that sometimes you get lost by listening to the next samples and you cannot find the samples you like anymore. Well, this is not a problem because now in the browser we have a history that you can easily go back and forth between the samples we listened previously. Working with scales will be much more easy in this new version of Live, because we can simply choose a scale that will gonna work for the entire project. This also synchronizes with Push Device as well. Then you don't need to change on every mid clip when you open a new track on your Ableton session. And this function also benefits from some MIDI effect devices, as the arpeggiator, the chords, and the random devices. Pressing this little icon at the top of every device will match the scale that you select before. Then you can freely generate MIDI that is currently locked to the scale that you choose. The same happens with the chord device, which make much more easy to find combinations that fit at the certain scale. Let's talk about MIDI editing. These new functions of Live, you can benefit from a fast songwriting and even explore new ways or new approach to design your music. Now with the MIDI node select, press Command E to cut on every division of the current grid selected. You can also divide by equal numbers by pressing Option more E and scroll to different numbers. I use this to create a triplet notes on this selection. In this other section, I use a higher value to create a fill in this hi-hat. Then I reach out the ramp feature that's going to automatically increase the volume of the MIDI notes. To add a small imperfection, I selected the portion I want to add and reach out Humanize function that's going to add more human feel to the sequence. Now to make a time stretch on the MIDI notes, it's much more easy with the stretch knob in the clip view. I can also use the sample similarity search on the simpler device. Now let's see how can we work with chords on Ableton 12. I'm gonna start work with a simple melody to use as a base to my chords. Now I'm going to select all of them, and then I can transpose in this menu all the notes entirely. Notes that I fit to a scale, so every transposition I made in the correct scale. Now I'm going to use this strum function just to randomize the starting point of the chords, give a more human feel to the chord playback. Now let's see how can we work with the arpeggiate function directly on the piano roll. This function is nice because we can easily see how we are arpeggiating, and we can edit small sections with different settings. So now I choose the entire section, and then I'm working with a nice pattern for my arpeggio. You can easily see that every note having the visual representation of all the changes we are making. Now I decide to use the gate a little bit to shorten the note. And now I'm gonna use again the add interval function to generate more interesting chords to this section. Let's use the connect function on the mid notes. This function adds notes in a blank space between the notes that I use a small section without any notes, and then I'm going to use the connect to create some idea in this blank space. Check that I can use the spread, density, rate and tie just to create more articulations and generate some unexpected results. Now let's use the ornament function to generate some special notes to spice it up the sequence. I'm using the grace notes to add a little bit earlier notes to make the sequence a bit more interesting. Now I'm going to use the flam just to generate one more note. I can control if I want the notes before or later. In this case I prefer before. This is a nice function to add more interesting pattern. And I also have the ability to control the velocity of these grace notes, which is very nice. Now let's use the time warp function to make these notes a bit out of the grid, giving a more interesting to this pattern. Note that I can select the part I want to make this warp, and then I use a kind of automation in this menu to make some different articulation on that specific section. This is very nice because I can have much more control over the randomization. Then I can mix the quantized notes and the unquantized notes. I love this function. Now let's use this shape function to generate some musical idea. I can choose some pre-made shapes and work with them as some arpeggiator, but choosing some different articulations. So I can choose up or down, up and down, some arc, arc down, bounce up, and I can even draw my own shape. This is much more easy to generate ideas, always locked to some scale. Now in the user mode, I'm drawing a shape, and then I can fix a range, maximum and minimum value for this pattern. Then I can choose rate to choose how many notes I want in the shape. And there are much more possibilities when choosing also the range. I can change a lot of the feeling. Using tie, I'm just making some notes longer just to make much more groove in this section. Density is according to the number of notes. And I can even apply jitter that apply a little bit more organic shape to this shape I made. Now talking about drums, let's generate a rhythm. I just load a pre-made kit on Ableton. As you can see, as I'm hearing each note, I select the note I want to make a rhythm. Then I can choose the pattern, the shape and density of each note. So now I select the snare. I'm generating rhythm for the snare. So I can choose one sample at a time, which makes very flexible to generate individual sounds. Now let's use a Euclidean sequencer that bounces in real time in the MIDI row. This Euclidean rhythms is very nice to make drum fills, I believe. So I can press random to generate a random pattern. And then in this other section, in voice section, I can choose which note I want to randomize. Now I can just play with the parameters and generate very cool rhythms. Now let's talk the new LFO on Ableton 12. Now when you map to any parameter, you are not locked into that value. Now you can change the value, the initial value, let's say, just like any VST. And you can also change the polarity of the modulation. You can choose to bipolar or unipolar, which I think it's very interesting feature. And to finish this video, let's talk about the granulator that had a very nice upgrade in this version. You can see a much more clean design. And now you can choose to 3 different algorithms for grants. Each one has a different sound, and a great feature also that you can also record something on the fly.
Be quiet.
So you can just select the source on your interface, and then you're gonna take the sound from the microphone on any synth you have to make a grain on the fly directly on the synth. That's amazing. From my experience, I really like the improvement, especially the MIDI modifiers. I think this could add more expression on the MIDI editing. However, I'm still missing some audio editing functions that other softwares currently offers. At the moment, we cannot apply the same audio editing in many clips at the same time. This is very time consuming, and I don't understand why Ableton don't implement this. Let me know your thoughts on this. I hope you find this content useful. Give a like, subscribe to the channel to get more updates about music production.